Hey everybody, Joe Konkoly in the shop. Today here at Elderly Instruments, we're going to follow a new instrument. Comes in the door off the truck and it comes right over here. We're going to follow it from receiving all the way through to the setup. Talk to the setup guys. Keep in mind, depending on the time of year when an instrument is received, there can be some delays. When it's very cold, we get instruments off the truck, we bring them in here, leave them in the box, don't touch them for a good 48 hours, because what we're trying to prevent is any finish damage from that shock of being on the cold truck into the warm receiving area here. If the instrument goes through too quick of a temperature change, the finish can be shocked and various finish cracks can develop. So that's one thing we keep in mind, especially during the cold at both ends of the process. When it comes in, we leave it in the box and delay it a little bit. And also at the other end on shipping out, there are times when we cannot ship due to extreme cold, but there's less of a delay in there. So that happens to all the new instruments that we take in, but it also would happen to anything that you would be mailing into us for sell, trade, or consign. We also keep that in mind. So many folks that send instruments into us for sell, trade, consign are keeping track of that instrument as it gets shipped through the process. And so when you see that we've signed off, especially during the winter, you have to expect maybe a delay of a couple of days until the repair shop receives it to inspect it and look at it, and the appraisers do so, till we can give you the figures to consider for that situation. So there can be those sort of delays with the new instruments too, where it's not that each instrument individually comes off the truck, gets inspected, put into the computer and run over to setup, and then setup grabs it and set it up. You know, we take all the instruments off the truck, you know, move them in. There are small delays that happen through that process, but keep in mind, weather is always a factor for your instrument. In the winter, it's cold and dry, so you want to make sure you humidify your instrument and don't make it go through any quick temperature changes.
Probably true.
And in the summer, it takes on a lot of moisture, so that can also make the instruments instrument woods expand and swell and affect the playability and such. So I'm in the receiving area. This is my friend Graham. Graham is the guy that receives it. So what do we got here, Graham?
We got a Northfield today.
All right. So a new Northfield Mandolin that has come in. It has a new instrument tag. It's yellow rather than red. If you've ever been here to Elderly Instruments, the red ones are used and the yellow ones are new. It's got our barcode on it. Graham does all that stuff. That receives the instrument in and gets it ready to in the computer and everything. So this one is pretty much ready to go back in its bin already. Huh?
Yep, it's ready to go.
What is it again? Let's see. It's a Northfield. Let's look at it a second.
Yeah.
It's a Northfield, Big Mon 5M, one of their beautiful top of the line, handmade varnish finish F5 mandolins. All right, Graham. Thanks a lot, man.
Hey, no problem.
We're moving through. This rack has instruments all ready to go over to the setup rack. So let's grab one. Let's see. Speaking of mandolins, let's grab one of these Kentucky mandolins. This is an entry level KM 150S. It's got its new tag on it. So Graham has prepped it for us. You can see the strings are loose. And these instruments all get toted over to the setup area. Let me put this lid back on so it doesn't fall off. There we go. Let's do that. On through. Did you scan it? Scanning those barcode tags are super important for us, and keeping track of all our inventory. So we'll come through the repair shop lobby here. And there's Dave Keller. Say hello, Dave.
Oh.
Dave is one of our setup and our bro guys, which is basically the person that takes in all the used instruments that are being considered for buy-sell trade. So he has 2 jobs. We're going to try to catch him at his 2nd job here in a minute. In through the repair shop. Well, first, we're going to go over here. This is the setup rack where all the instruments that have been received are sitting waiting for the setup guys to choose. We got a wide variety of stuff. Some other KM150S mandolins, good time banjos. Those are always easy to recognize in the good time banjo box. Hard shell cases, soft shell cases, boxes, a wide variety of things. Ukuleles, auto harps, electric guitars, acoustic guitars, banjos, the whole range of stuff. So the setup guys come over here and grab this stuff, come right back into their room. This is where all the new instruments get set up in this busy area right here. Dave Keller, one of our setup guys, is at the counter doing stuff, and this is Larry Scott White, one of our senior setup guys.
Hello.
What you got on your bench here, Larry?
It's a Fender left-handed acoustic electric guitar, and setting it up. I pulled the strings back because there's a couple high frets on the extension, and basically, if we started the setup out, we would first tune it up, check the electronics, and then go from there and make sure the bridge is down and neck straight, and then set it up.
So you also do an initial inspection to sort of check the fit and finish and other obvious things like whether the bridge is down, look inside the sound holes, make sure all the braces are down.
Yep.
Could tap on the back to listen for any loose back braces, sight the neck, get a general feel for how the neck is adjusted, the relief in the neck, and how that neck angle relates to the bridge, and a quick inspection of the frets and how well they're seated.
Yeah, this is pretty good except for up here. They look a little like they could be polished. There's some steel wool, and there's a couple high ones here that will probably file a little bit and recrown. And then this fingerboard looks pretty dry. Probably put some oil on it. Some of the stuff gets.
Speaking of which, you've already lubed up the bridge here. Come and get a shot of this one.
Yeah, I put a little on there. It looked pretty dry. I typically tend to do that. I tend to oil things if they look real dry with the Howard Feed and Wax.
Howard's Feed and Wax is a product that we sell and use here a lot in the setup department. Larry's got it sitting on there, letting it soak in, and he'll just wipe off the excess soon, and that's how he'll finish off the fretboard also, once the fretwork is done.
And I'll string it back up, check, make sure it plays all right, and if it's good, I'll sign off on it and put it in its bin where it would be stored, or it may go to the floor. It looks like this one is going to its bin this is going to the floor. It's got a piece of tape. So this one would go on the put-out rack to go up on the sales floor.
So on the sales floor, we try to have a nice variety of things. We are not able to have one of everything, but that's what kind of we're shooting for, and then all the multiples go in the bin off the sales floor. Thanks, Larry.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate that. Let's see what Dave has at his bench. He was in the process of inspecting, setting up this Yamaha Ukulele, which is essentially a 6-string ukulele. A ukulele-sized instrument, but with 6 strings, 6 nylon strings. And the bridge, I'm looking at this joint right here, the bridge appears to be down fine. The neck joint is good. Nice and solid there, no rattles for the back braces. When I sight down the neck, I'm looking at this edge right here. I'm trying to see, does it appear generally straight? Ideally, what I want to see is straight with a very slight amount of relief. And I'm also looking, so when I'm looking at an angle like this, I want to see those frets looking like a set of railroad tracks where they're all very parallel. And I'm specifically looking at how well they're seated right there. That mushroom should be seated down flush with the top, or as close as it can be and consistently as it can be. When I sight down here, if some of the frets are loose, one thing that can happen is the fret can be seated in there properly, and then through changes in humidity and temperature, the size of the fingerboard can change. It will shrink up when it's very dry, expand when it takes on humidity, and that change back and forth can allow the frets, which are press fit in and usually a little glue to make sure they stay where they are, but they can work themselves out, and that would usually happen on the ends. Or if they're not seated in properly from point one, I can look down that neck, and if I don't see that railroad track effect where they're all parallel to each other, I can see, where the ends might be sticking up. Another thing we do is just run our fingers along the edge here. The fret is dressed off on the end. Usually when the frets are installed, they're a little long. They're clipped with a pair of flush cut end nippers, like so, to clip them flush, and then you take a file and file that smooth, and then various grits of sandpaper. Actually, before you get to the sandpaper, you take another file and shape those ends. So that's another thing we're looking for. We feel those fret ends to be shaped and smooth so they don't catch. And then this instrument does not have an adjustable neck. So we want to see one of the things that both Dave and Larry do. So they use the string as a straight edge with this backlit situation. I'm going to press the string down here at the body joint between those two frets and between the nut and the first fret. So that string is resting on this fret and this fret. And what I want to see is what I see here. Just a teeny amount, a few thousandths of space right here in the middle of the neck. Space of light there between the bottom of the string and the top of the fret. And that tells me that it has that minimal relief. And they would inspect the nut slots. You press the string down here between the second and third fret so the string rests on the second fret, and you can see that space. You can see when I press it and move it with my finger there. I want to see that be a few thousandths too. So you look at every one, and if one needs to be adjusted, you can grab the string in various ways. Some strings are easier to grab than others. Oops. Pull it out of the way, and I take one of my fret files and file that slot lower if necessary, a few thousandths at a time, and recheck it a number of different times. Once those two things are established, you look at this at the height of the string at the 12th fret. From the top of the fret to the bottom of the string, you measure it. There are various specs for each style instrument. And you can loosen the strings and adjust this saddle. Obviously, it's easier to adjust it down because you take material off the bottom. If it needs to be adjusted up, you can put a shim under there and shim it up, a nice hardwood, well-fit shim. But at a certain point, the saddle would need to be replaced because you can only shim it up so much. And that is the basics of setup stuff. Let's finish this up. I think we're done here. So there you go, a new instrument setup at Elderly Instruments, from receiving through the setup department and on out to its bin, and put on a sales order for you so that you can receive your new instrument. Thanks for joining us in the shop here today. Like and share us on Facebook, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.